Jen Mall, and welcome to Nurse Connect. I am an RN and a board certified nurse coach. I believe that connecting with others is essential to living a happy and fulfilled life, and that sharing our stories not only helps us to heal ourselves, but also helps others by inspiring hope and optimism. I am so grateful to share stories of these incredible nurses on their journey, and I encourage you to find a way to share yours too. Thanks for listening in. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Nurse Connect. I am Jen Mall, and I have got Colette here with me, which I'm super excited to have on today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So we have just a treat for you today. Colette has her own podcast, which I know we'll touch on, and this might be a little bit of an explicit podcast. So if you got little ones around, I feel like the
Yes.
F-bomb is going to get dropped a time or two
Yes.
here. So would you mind please taking us back a little bit and tell us a little bit about your journey of being a nurse and kind of where you at now?
Absolutely. So I have technically been a nurse for about 18 years. I had to do the math last night because I was like, wow, has it really been that,
I know,
that long?
right?
And so I had actually went into the military when I got out of high school, and
Mm.
I served as a Air Force cop. And I got married, and I ended up getting pregnant with twins.
Oh my
And my
gosh.
husband was being sent to Korea at the time
Oh,
for a year. And
wow.
so my only option was to get out of the Air
Mm.
Force and bring my twins home to my mom, and she helped me raise them while he was gone. So
Wow.
that kind of left me, I saw the military as my future and what I was going to do
Mm-hmm.
forever. And all of a sudden that just changed on the drop of a dime, that all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden I couldn't stay in and
Mm-hmm.
take care of my family. So I had to get out. So it really had impacted me when I had my twins. The
Mm-hmm.
nurses there I just fell in love with them. They were
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And from the day I had my twins on, nursing was always in the back of my mind. And my aunt had been a nurse, and several family members are in the medical field. And so when I saw them in action, I was like, okay, these are my people. I need
That's
to be one
awesome.
of these. Yeah. So I jumped into nursing school when my twins were, I think, about a year old.
Wow.
And so I
And
jumped
was
into
your husband still deployed?
He was deployed
Oh
when I
my
started,
gosh.
yes. And then he had come home throughout graduation and stuff. So
Wow.
yeah, so it was quite the adventure, but I feel like that journey took me exactly to where the profession that I needed to be, because I absolutely adore nursing. I love taking care for people. I love, everything about just being able to help somebody out.
Mm-hmm.
So getting into nursing I think I graduated in 2005. And so I started in telemetry first. I
Mm-hmm.
was a nursing assistant on telemetry. And so they went ahead and moved me right into my nursing role. And I stayed there for about a year. And then I spent the rest of my career, about 12 years, in the ICU, in the critical care.
Awesome. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. And there's so much more to your journey we're going to get into. And what, I think is so interesting is we've actually been in similar nursing orbits for many
Yes,
years, working
we
at the same
have.
organization. I worked with
Yeah.
your husband in the trauma ICU and in
Yes.
trauma in general in the ED. But we never really connected. And
No.
I always find that so fascinating. It's like, wow, how can you be kind of around and in a
Right.
similar circle and not really have connected with the person? And then suddenly you're like,
Right.
how did I never know you? That's
Right. And then
awesome.
when we talked, I felt like I've known you forever. I was like,
Same.
oh, this is someone I should have been knowing all this time. It's like I knew who you were, but we never connected in that way. And
Yeah.
it also could be when I had left, I lost
Hmm.
contact with a lot of people at the hospital.
Yeah.
So it's really sad. I miss my nursing family.
Yes. Okay. So you were a nurse for many years
Yeah.
in the telemetry department ICU, and then is that around the time when you stepped away from the bedside when you had your third kiddo?
My fifth.
Your fifth. Oh my
My
gosh.
fifth. Surprise. Yes. So my twins are from my first
Right.
marriage. And then
Okay.
my husband Tay and I, we have three together. So
That's
it was
right.
the last one of that one. And he was adamant that he wanted another baby. And I
Mm.
thought he was insane. But he said, hey, take some time off work, be with the kids, and enjoy some time, because nursing's so hard. And when do you get to just take a break? And so
Hmm.
he said, take a break and be with the kids. And I was like, I don't know if that's much of a break, but It was fantastic because it awarded me the opportunity to stay home with the babies and
Hmm.
be a stay-at-home mom for a little while that I hadn't been able to be because you know how it is with nursing. You're just working, working, working. So I spent time, I ended up pregnant with our fifth child and I was off work. But that's when I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went into from having a 2-month-old baby to being diagnosed with breast cancer. So it
Hmm.
quite shook our world quite a bit.
Wow. And would you mind sharing how you were diagnosed?
Absolutely. I was breastfeeding my daughter and I thought I had a clogged milk duct or
Hmm.
mastitis, something like that. No big deal because I was thinking with my age and with having babies, they say have your babies and breastfeed them and it'll prevent breast cancer. So I'm thinking it's just a
Mm-hmm.
clogged milk duct. And I happened to call my OBGYN and a friend of mine was her nurse. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, I don't like it. You need to go into get an ultrasound, and she got me in that day, and I thought she was crazy. I thought they were
Yeah.
totally overreacting, and within 3 days they diagnosed me with stage 2B triple negative breast cancer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Man, her intuition must have been screaming at her for some reason. And thank
Yes.
God she followed through on that and
Because
pushed
I
you.
literally, I talked to her. I was like, come on. I was trying to talk her out of it. I was like, I can go tomorrow. It's not a big deal. And she just
Mm-hmm.
said, absolutely not. I don't like it. And I was like, wow, I really never thought anything bad was going to come out of that.
Wow. And you share your story in detail on your podcast. So
I
I'll,
do.
this portion of it, so I'll definitely direct people back to, I'll put the link in there.
Okay.
But to touch on a couple highlights. So you have a 2 month old, you've been
2 month
diagnosed
old.
with breast cancer.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
It was really hard because I've always been being a mom has been
Mhm.
my biggest joy in life. That I
Mhm.
feel like it's the best job I do. And so I love, breastfeeding and co-sleeping with my baby and doing all these
Mhm.
things, and that got taken away from me because I
Mm.
couldn't breastfeed anymore, and then I couldn't, depending on the chemotherapy days, if I had just gotten treatment I couldn't hold the baby or be around her
Mm.
for 24 hours or for 48 hours. So it was really hard, but my husband's mom moved in and she stayed with us for about a year, and she co-parented with me. I always say she took over and helped, and I mean she did, but she helped raise my baby, but she really was my co-parent for that whole
Mhm.
time. And if it wasn't for her, I don't know that we would have made it.
That is incredible. And then
Yes.
not a lot of people have that type of relationship with their in-laws,
Right.
especially even their moms in some cases,
Yes.
that to be able to do that. And so the fact that she could do that, how incredibly special.
Yeah. And she literally just called and said, "What do you need?" And my husband said, "I need you to come here and help." And she said, "I'm on my way." And
Good.
they lived in another state at the time, and now they've moved here after everything.
Wow.
We've relocated them because we just all got so close, and they were so special in my journey.
That's incredible. So how long were you in treatment? What did that look like for you?
So treatment was about a year. And so I got diagnosed in December of 2016, went straight into chemo. Within 2 weeks, I was in chemo. And
Mm.
then we did surgery in May of 2017. And then I finished radiation in August of 2017. So August is my
Wow.
all done date. So all of us survivors pick different dates to celebrate, but I celebrate August as my all done date. So I just hit my 6 year all done date.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And kind of having again peripherally watching your journey over the last few years, you made it through that first year, and then at what point did you end up going back to try it and work at the bedside? Not try, but you did go back to the
I
bedside for a bit. At
did.
what point was that at?
So we took some time right after my diagnosis. We took some time
Hmm.
and founded our nonprofit in 2018. And so I worked on that for quite a few years. And then I just was really getting the itch to go back to work. When I was working ICU, I also had been doing a side job at a plastic surgeon's office, which I
Mm.
loved it. It was like my fun time. It wasn't
Yeah.
critical patients. And,
Yeah.
so it was kind of my happy job. And so I went to a plastic surgeon's that one of my friends worked at, and he said, "Come on up, come work with us in the OR." And so I did. And it's a good job and it has, great pay, good patients, all that. But that's when I learned that my mental health was not
Mm.
there. I was not ready to be caring for that specific type of patient. I had my own triggers that would make
Mm.
me angry, or I would get really frustrated because I was
Yeah.
used to working in critical care and now going into elective surgeries and having gone through cancer. It was just a really mind game, and I had a really hard time kind of finding my footing mental health
Mhm.
wise when I did
Yeah.
that job.
Yeah. So what worked for you or what helped, if anything?
So actually quitting. So I went ahead and quit. I had to give myself time to focus back on my mental health and
Hmm.
see where I was going to land. If I was going to land back in the nursing field, it was going to have to be the perfect job, the right fit where I I feel for the critical care patient, but I want to be the one taking care of them. I just really did that for so long, and it meant so much to me. And just to be there for those families and stand by their
Yeah.
sides and hold their hands and talk them through situations. If I go back ever, I'm thinking it would have to be in that capacity.
Hmm.
So what worked for me was realizing that I was in a job, even though it's in my profession, that was not the greatest fit for me.
Yes. And I think that's so important because in nursing, we do have so many options, which is
Yeah.
incredible.
Mhm.
And sometimes the grass is greener on the other side, sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not.
And what seems like, oh, this should be an easy job to like
Right.
step into. But if it's not the right fit, that
Right.
can be more damaging to you to stay in a role like that
Yes.
than it is to just, all right, I'm cutting
Yes.
ties.
Yep.
I just recognize it's not the right fit and I gotta move on. And so I think
Exactly.
it's incredible that you had the courage to do that because
Yeah. And it
it
took me
does
time
sometimes feel hard.
because I didn't want to give up. I didn't want it to
Sure.
be, well, for some reason I can't deal with this type of patient. But when it came
Hmm.
down to it, it really was what it is. And my husband and I had to really think about what was best for my mental health. And I was
Yeah.
coming up on my 5 year cancer anniversary.
Mm.
And I had been listening to one of your podcasts with the nurse coach, Abby.
Yes,
And oh my gosh,
she's
I just
great.
got so much out of that episode. She is wonderful. And listening to her talk about survivorship was dead
Hmm.
on. She was just dead on. And having that come from someone that worked in the oncology field felt really, really good because a lot of
Hmm.
times, like she says, the medical team doesn't have time
Hmm.
they have time to do what they're supposed to, but not to support our mental health or, you
Yeah.
know, turn us in the right direction for dietary needs or if we need transportation. And the medical team doesn't have a lot of time for that. So someone like her would have been fantastic for helping people through their journey because you just don't know what to expect.
Right.
And coming into 5 years, everybody's going, you're 5 years, you're cancer free. And it's like for the cancer survivor, sometimes that's more terrifying to say
Sure.
than anything else. So I was coming up on that 5 years and my mental health was struggling and I was at a job that was just really triggering. And so I
Hmm.
had to make the decision to come back and focus on our nonprofit and put my energy where I know it fuels my soul. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and it just really it makes me happy to see the positive outcomes that we do every day for people.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, so
yeah.
let's back up and talk more about ways,
Yes,
because so much of what you just touched on, talking about Abby, you've already been doing to help people for the
right,
last several years with your nonprofit. So
right.
please share
So
more about that.
in listening to Abby, I was so amazed. I had never even known about a nurse coach. And I don't know, I'm like working in this field. How in the world have I never known?
Yeah.
So listening to her really sparked my wow, like this is someone we could work with. We could work with nurse coaches because our clients
Mhm.
need this.
Yes.
So with Ways, we focus on their dietary needs, making sure they have food and groceries. A lot of times it's hard, especially if they're alone. It's hard to cook, for themselves or go grocery shopping
Mhm.
for themselves. So we make sure that they get food and meals. Transportation to and from their any oncology appointment is covered by us. We have
Incredible.
licensed therapists on staff, so we can have them talk to a counselor if they need whatsoever. And then we do fun quarterly events where we just go get out and do something fun. Like we just did Board and Brush in Roseville, and everybody just every time we do it, they always say, we can't wait to come back because, we're just building something and doing something
Yes.
fun. And they get to just kind of be around people that are in the same situation as them, but we're not sitting
Hmm.
around crying, and if we want to cry, we can cry, but
Sure.
we're sitting around, doing something fun and just kind of getting them out of the sadness of their journey.
Sure. Sure.
So, and then lastly, we do individualized donations. So we'll take the specific client, and if they have a need, we've had clients that have to go to Stanford for treatments. And so they need gas cards. So we'll get them
Mm.
gas cards, or we'll get them wigs or headwear, anything like that. We have clothing. So yeah, we give back. Everything that is donated to us goes 100% back to the community.
That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have chills thinking
Oh,
how many
thank you.
people you are impacting,
Yeah.
not just the individuals that are, diagnosed with cancer. That is
Right.
incredible and important,
Right.
but also their support system
Their
and,
support
and their
system.
family, and knowing that they have somebody that kind of gets it,
Yep.
that's helping them along. Because I'm
Yep.
sure as a supporter family member, you also feel so helpless. Like, I
Absolutely.
don't even know what to do.
That's why we always encourage them to bring a support person to our client events, so the support people can kind of be
Good.
involved too and kind of hear the conversations, or maybe the support people themselves can become a support for one another, so we
Yes.
always encourage them to bring them, and we'll provide therapy and stuff to the families and the caretakers. So it's not just the cancer patient. We want to help make sure the entire support system is just, we could take some of that weight off their shoulder.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible that you came out of your own journey and thought, how can I help others on
Yeah.
theirs?
Yeah.
That's really special.
And I feel like it was definitely one of those things where I was coming out of my journey going, who am I now? What am I going back to nursing? What am I doing? And Tay and I just kept saying, there's something we got to do. There's something we got to do. And as I went through my journey and I had an amazing support system, they there were big holes still in the system.
Hmm.
And so it was like, whoa, what about survivorship? Survivorship is a
Hmm.
really hard one. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, and nobody focuses on it. And so we're like, we have to focus on survivorship. We have to focus on these people that don't have transportation. I
Yeah.
had someone to take me to all my appointments, and I was during my most busy time of treatment, I was at the hospital probably 5 days a week.
Wow.
So it's like you're sick and you were looking for someone to help take you. And if I had all the support system that I had, and I noticed the holes in the system, what about those who
Hmm.
don't have any support system?
Yes. Yes.
So,
And your knowledge as a nurse
right.
probably helped you to be a little bit more aware of
Yeah,
how you could help in those situations. And,
definitely.
we were talking before the recording of like, oh, I'm not really a nurse right now. And it's like, that is not true.
Right.
You are always a nurse, and
Always a
you are
nurse.
working as a nurse in a different capacity. Your
Absolutely.
knowledge and your experience and
Yes.
your personal experience is helping
Thank
everybody that's
you.
connected
Yeah.
with this. So I just really want to give you the kudos on that, because
Thank you
soak that
so
in.
much.
It's so important.
Thank you. And I do feel like I'm just nursing in a different way.
Yes.
I'm caring for people and providing a service in just a different way outside of the hospital. And that feels good right now.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about your podcast because it completely
Oh
ties
yeah.
into all of this. So, where
Yes.
do you want to start with that? How did you get the
Okay,
idea
so
for it?
what's that?
How did you get the idea for it?
Oh, so about a year ago, we were talking. I'm super into podcasts, and we were talking, and my kids are quite creative. And one of them said, why don't we do a podcast? And I said, well, what would it be called? And one of my oldest said, well, let's talk effing cancer. And I was like, hey, that's kind of aggressive and
Yeah.
it's kind of grabs your attention. And they're like, you gotta grab their attention, mom. And I'm like, okay. So we pondered it for a year, and we had a projected start date of September 1st of this year.
Hmm.
But we have a fundraiser coming up. So we decided we're going to be so busy with that. Let's bump it up a month.
Smart.
And so I just never imagined it was actually going to happen. Like, we had the date set, we were buying all the equipment. And then all of a sudden, August 1st was here, and we recorded our first episodes. And here we are. So now I think episode 3 just played. Episode 4 comes out next week. And we
Yay.
we have several segments where each week is something different. but we spotlight a cancer survivor thriver. We have tips and tricks for just getting through the hard days
Mm-hmm.
of chemotherapy and radiation. We do have a grief and remembrance segment
Mm-hmm.
where we just like to acknowledge the people that we have lost and want to
Mm-hmm.
continue to say their name.
Mm-hmm.
And then um, lastly, we have, I just totally forgot what I was going to say. Lastly, we have, professionals. So anyone in a professional realm that can come on and talk on the podcast and give our listeners some good and new information. So yeah, we're very excited. We have our first professional coming out this Tuesday, and it's an oncology nutritional specialist.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, what
Yeah.
an amazing resource. And yeah, I really enjoyed listening to it as well.
Oh,
It gives me
good.
such a great insight into your journey, but also, like you
Right.
said, the tips and the tricks and
Yeah.
those little
And things
things that
that people never
yeah.
think of.
No, no. And, I've been a nurse for 18 years. I graduated in 2005 too. So we're
Oh,
on
good.
that
Yeah.
same path. And, but oncology was never an area that I
Me too.
was really interested in. I kind of was
Mhm.
like, ooh, nope, too much.
Yep.
And certainly I've been touched by cancer with family and some
Right.
friends, but I don't think you really get it unless you're like in it,
In it.
and I think a lot of people don't like to think about it because I think they're afraid that if I think about it, I might get cancer. And it's
Right.
like, oh, okay, you're not
It's
wishing it on
definitely,
yourself. But so this
yep.
is super helpful to give me a different perspective. And so when I connect with people who are touched by cancer in some way, maybe I can understand a tiny bit more about what they're
Right.
going through.
Right. And it's so the whole journey is super confusing. It's a roller coaster.
Hmm.
And so trying to navigate the emotions of it all or the needs of it all, it's a mess. And
Yeah.
so when I was listening to Abby, I was going, wow, to have someone in your corner that can kind of talk you through this, it
Hmm.
would be amazing because we have
Yeah.
great services to offer, but that's another really specialized service to offer that had I had a nurse coach, there would have been so much things
Mhm.
done different, but
Yeah.
you just kind of have to figure it out on your
Yeah.
own unless you find that group that can really support you. And so we hope to be that for the people in our local community.
Oh, incredible. I just love it. Okay, so you have a podcast, you've got
Yes.
waves going on.
Yes.
What's your I know when's your next fundraiser, did you say?
Oh, our
What's
fundraiser is September 16th. It's in
Okay.
Rockland at the Arthur Murray Dance Studio, and it's going to be a casino night.
Oh,
So we're going
fun.
to have casino tables, a DJ, a food truck. We have hefty euros coming out. We're going to have swag, a virtual auction, all the fun things, and it's just going to be a really fun night trying to raise money for our community.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And this episode should be released the week or two before that. I'll let you know for sure.
Oh,
But that would
perfect.
be ideal. So if
Yeah.
anybody in the Northern California,
Yes.
Sacramento-ish area is interested in attending, definitely look it
Please.
up.
Please join us. And yeah, we definitely we can maybe link the
Mhm.
tickets in the show notes.
I can definitely do that. Yeah,
That'd be
absolutely.
fantastic.
So exciting. All right.
Yeah.
So, what other things, either specifically nursing related or not at all, cancer related, your personal journey, what are some other things that kind of popped into your head? They're like, oh, I hope we can touch on this because I think it's important.
Yeah, I think my time in the critical care, because I spent so much time in critical care at bedside,
Hmm.
I just really I miss it.
Hmm.
I miss the type of patient, I miss the camaraderie, I miss my nurse family, and where luckily my husband still works with them all, so I do get to
Hmm.
see them, but it's different when you're not working day to day with them
Yeah.
anymore. So I just really miss that. But my time in the critical care, I have to say, it shaped me into who I am today,
Mm.
who it's what brought out my passions for certain things. And so aside from my cancer journey, I think the critical care experience was phenomenal for me. It was not anything that I had anticipated doing. I had worked on telemetry for my first year and I said, okay, I want to go work in the PACU. And they said, well, you need to go work in critical care for a year.
Uh.
And I never left. So my years in critical care, I think were just so fundamental
Hmm.
in shaping who I was as a nurse or who I am as a nurse. And I really just I want to give so much credit to all
Mm.
those nurses that I worked with that taught me through the years and worked beside me through the years and just really created a family and some really, some of them the situations were pretty yucky. And so
Hmm.
you're able to go through these things together and support each other And I miss that.
Yeah. Yeah. There is definitely something about that camaraderie that when you
Yeah.
go through these really hard things and then you
Yeah.
celebrate all the fun things, the anniversaries
Right.
and the birthdays and the babies and all
Yeah.
the things that come along. And then when you're not around that, it's
It
a little bit of a gap and that can be
it
really
is.
challenging.
It is. And so I really miss that, but I really love and admire our critical care team that we've
Hmm.
had there forever. I swear
Hmm.
we are so lucky to have some of the nurses we have for so long, but
Yeah.
I just really credit them and my nurse family
Yeah.
for, just kind of shaping who I am and helping me
Oh.
become the nurse that I am and or I was going to say was, but still am.
Yes, good catch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure several of them will be listening. And I think as nurses, we want to be humble as we're just kind of by
Right.
nature, not like braggy people. But I want to just remind those folks that are listening that are part of Colette's journey to just soak that in because we don't often get
Yes.
to celebrate those really good, feely
Yeah,
things in nursing sometimes.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
because it's
I
so
want to do that.
heavy and it's
Yeah.
very, sometimes it's dark and it's heavy and nurses they say have the strangest sense of humor, but I think that we make what we can of
So
it.
true.
But I think also one of my biggest things is getting it out there about mental health. And I heard
Thank
that
you.
in several of your episodes already. And it made me feel so warm inside to hear other people
Mm-hmm.
talking about it because the mental health aspect is giant. And
Mm-hmm.
if we're not taking care of our mental health, we're not going to be at the best of our ability when we work. And we owe it to ourselves first to make sure
Yes.
that we're okay.
Yes, absolutely. And it's burnout and our own challenges were
Yeah.
that was all there before COVID, before your cancer journey. I'm sure there were
Right.
probably times too that were struggle. Um, but I think especially since COVID, it's brought out so much
Yeah.
and a lot of myself and fellow colleagues you
Yeah.
just these last few years have been really hard
Yeah.
and I'm grateful that we're starting to open up and talk about it a little bit more because I
Me
think
too.
our profession has been like, oh, we don't have time for that or we're not allowed to do that, we just got to shove it down and move
Right.
on, we got people to take care of, but you can only do that for so long before you
You can
break.
only do that for so long. And I credit so many of my friends that have had the guts to say, I'm not doing well and I'm taking a leave of absence, which I
Hmm.
never did and I should have.
Hmm.
And so, I just think that I don't know where the cancer comes from and all the good things, but I
Mm.
think the things that we can do to lessen the stress and
Yeah.
really take care of our mental health, keep those stress levels as low as possible. And our job is super stressful. So whatever we can
Mm.
do to help that mental health while we're not at work, or even if there's times, I think I was listening, you guys were talking about breathing. And
Yeah.
so
Breath work
taking,
practices.
yeah, taking that moment and doing your breathing techniques and stuff like that. And I think it's really
Yeah.
important. And I love that people are talking about it now because it
Hmm.
was taboo for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. What are a few things that have worked well for you?
For me, usually I just have to remove myself from the situation and kind of do a breathing technique or something, but I would hide in the bathroom or go
Yep.
into the break room, but the break room is never quiet.
No.
And just have to remove myself because I would get really flustered about something
Mhm.
and I didn't want it to carry over to my patients.
Sure.
But I mean, there were times that it carried over to my coworkers, and I had to
Yeah.
apologize because I was so frustrated or so upset about something, or just the overwhelmingness of whatever situation just came in. And
Hmm.
so I think taking that moment has been the best thing for me. And then when I go home, I don't let myself spin on it. You know how we do.
Yes. So
We leave
hard.
and go over every little thing that went on that day. You're critiquing yourself and thinking, what did I do wrong? Did I mess
Yes.
something up? And I have stopped myself, but I went to therapy and I got on
Good.
medication, and all of that has helped me kind of do that stop blocking where I don't have to think about that right now. Everything's okay. Your
Yes.
day is over. Just relax.
Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Because I think, again, that therapy, the meds, it's all kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not
So
for me.
taboo.
Like, yeah,
Mhm.
or I couldn't do that. And I think it's like, hey, do what works for you. and
Absolutely.
leave the rest. Like
Yeah.
just dabble a little bit here. What does that do? It's okay to try and explore and try different
Yeah.
things and what works for you, and try not to worry about what other people think, but it is
Yeah.
so hard.
It is so hard. And I've had talks with several of my family members about
Hmm.
medications. And I said, here's the thing. It's A, your business and your business only.
Hmm.
And B, if you have a headache, you're going to take a Tylenol. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't you just take your daily pill to make you feel just a little more stable and better?
Yeah.
Why not? So
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that talking about it is huge.
Yes. Yes. Takes away a bit of that stigma. Yeah. Oh, I love it. All right. We are getting close to wrapping up. Want to see if you have
Okay.
any final thoughts to share out with our community. It's been such a great conversation.
Oh, thank you. I just think, being very aware of your mental health and just staying on top of it. Don't put your mental health last. Don't
Hmm.
put yours. We tend to do that as caretakers. And so remember to put yourself first. It is most important that you put yourself first and you take care of your mental health and your well-being so you can then provide better for
Yeah,
your patients.
absolutely. Oh, I just love that. And not just our patients, but our loved ones, our kiddos, our
Absolutely.
animals.
Yes,
Yeah, when you're full up, you can freely and lovingly give to others. And it's just a nice
exactly.
space to be in. Oh,
Exactly.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Colette. This has been such a beautiful conversation. So
Oh,
many
thank
great nuggets.
you. It's so nice to be on your podcast, and I can't wait to have you on mine.
Sounds great. All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody. We'll see you later.
Bye.